Hello people! Today we're doing a set that I'm calling Baskets and Wheat for obvious reasons. And let's get started. I have prepped a set of tapered square nails and we're going to be using this Vanalisa Mud Gel for our base colors. And I had forgotten as I started to do this to soften my brush first so it's all stiff and it's not looking good. So that's what I had to stop and get some alcohol on it, soften it up. And we're off running now. There will be 2 coats of this color. Well, there will be 2 coats on all of them, so which you're going to see, but I will speed them up. And there's first coat done, cured. I'm going to go in for the second coat now. You guys will be happy to know that my swollen hand is all back to normal now. And I did not pull off any bonehead moves this week, so yay for me. Okay. Moving on. Now, the basket weave portion of this, okay, those are cured. We're moving on to the second color. I'll come back to that in a sec. Now, see how bright yellow this is? Trust me, it's not going to look that bright when we get done with this whole set. These are going to be the basket weave ones. There will be 2 coats going on them, as I said already. Coat number 2. Now, before we get into the other part, I think it was in the spring when I attempted these basket weave nails before, and it was a disaster. And when we get to the actual basket weave painting part of this, I'll show you those old ones that I did. Okay, all done, ready to cure, and moving on. We're going on to the stamping phase. We're going to be stamping that wheat design, and whoopsie. There is the stamping plate I used. The number, it doesn't have a name, but I think it might be Born Pretty. And I had attempted to do this with gold. I was going to do gold for the stamping, but it did not show up on the base color, so I switched out to this brown now. Now this was sold as a stamping polish. It doesn't say stamping polish anywhere on the bottle. It just says nail lacquer. So I'm assuming it's a regular polish. I don't know, but it's very well pigmented and it works great for stamping. And that's what I have for brown stamping polish. So that's what I'm using. And here we go. Stamping that wheat right on there. Easy peasy. And now we have a wheat nail. And I'm going to show you a couple more real quick. I had a good stamping day with these, so everything went nicely. Now, this is the lint roller I used to clean off my stamper. It wasn't working great because it was dirty and dusty. I needed to tear off a new sheet of there, which I will do in a second. Okay, but moving on. For stamping, we're just loaded up with the polish. Give it a couple of gentle but firm scrapes. You don't want to scrape too hard because then you pull the polish out of the, the grooves of the design, and then you don't get all of it. There it is on the stamper, and right onto the nail we go. There we go. The only bummer about these is it's all going to be the same. They're all exactly the same. There's my cleaned off lint roller. So see, now it cleans off real nice and easy. See, nice and clean. And cleaning that off with acetone, as this is a regular polish and not a gel. And one more, and that's all we're going to do of these. Well, that's all you're going to see me do. Okay, gently roll it across and pick up our design. And ready to go. Stamping works great if you want a design that's got a bunch of intricate lines and thin lines and nice little parts. It just, if you're not real good at hand painting which I'm not yet. This is just the easier and neater. It gives you a much neater, cleaner, finished look. And I will clean that off. I will not clean that off. Okay, there we are so far. Okay, moving on. Now we're ready to start with the basket weave stuff. Now, I'm using the same brown that I used for, oh no, I'm not either. I could have done that. I don't know why I didn't use that. Oh, I know why, because it wasn't gel. Okay, I'm using this. This is a brown gel that I've had from Makartt. I'm using this for painting my basket weave lines on. Now you're going to see pop in here pretty soon at the top of this. Well, starting off with the dotting tool, you're going to see the old ones that I did, and you'll see what they look like, and then you'll understand why I thought they looked crappy. And you'll also get why they look like stitched together skin, so I probably could have pulled them off as a creepy Halloween set, like I said, but maybe next year. Anyway, we're going to do an evenly spaced row of dots down the center of the nail, and then one on either side of that. Now the key to this is to keep them evenly spaced and uniform. And as you can tell, some of mine are a little wonky. And this particular nail is the only one where there's going to be a partial extra row going down that one other side of the nail, because I just had more room on that one. I didn't space them quite far enough apart. So now I've got too much space on the side, so I'm just going to fill in with the next row of dots, and we'll pick that up as we go. All the rest of the nails are only going to have 3 rows of dots. This is the only one with that extra bit. Okay, and we're going to be moving on. There's the ugly ones. Boo. Yeesh, they give me the creeps just looking at them. Okay, now I'm going to get out my detailer brush, and now we're going to get our lines going. Now this part can be a little bit confusing. I mean, I had a picture I was looking at that I was going off of while I was doing this. So hopefully as you're watching me do it, it won't be as confusing. We want to have our curved lines. They don't need to be super curvy. I have seen these done with all the lines being straight, but it just, to me, it didn't look as good with the straight lines. But you want to go in the opposite way on each like set, each little set of dots. And frankly, I've got my lines curved in a little bit more than they probably need to be. They just really need a little slight curve to them. Now with this nail that I'm working on, I was a little bit more heavy-handed with everything. When you see the other ones, or if you look at the finished picture, the other ones are not going to be as dark as this one. Okay, now this is where it gets a little more confusing. Now you've got to go in the opposite way. Like you want your... Like you need your little sections to be the same. Okay, now I'm confusing myself here, so I was trying to figure it out. See, that other side on the right goes out, so we need this one to go out. The next one will go in. Those ones going inwards are the ones that are sticking up the highest, and where the other ones, it's going underneath. I mean, you can kind of sort of see that happening a little. It was a bit confusing for me. You know, I was glad I had a picture to look at to get myself going. Once I got going with it and I did, you know, 1 or 2 of these, then it made more sense, and I was doing it without having to look at anything. But for just starting out, I wanted to make sure I got things going the right way. And as I already said, some of my lines are a little bit curvier than they really need to be, but still came out looking pretty good, I think. I was very proud of myself with these. We're also going to have a little confusion when it gets to the point of painting the shadow lines on, or the shadow parts. Okay, and then I had to incorporate these little side pieces. That one needed to go out, so you weren't going to see much of it. The next one needs to go in. And the last little bit would have gone out, so it's not going to show up on there anyway, but I'm just going to see if I get a little piece of it to show up on there. Okay, now we're ready to do it. Now don't cure it yet. I made the mistake of curing these after each little step when I did that first set, and my dots were raised up, and that's another part of it made it look weird and just didn't look right. You don't need a whole lot of paint on your brush either. You're kind of pulling some of it out from where the dots are as you're painting it on, so you don't need a whole heck of a lot on your brush, which is why I was saying this one is a lot more heavy-handed looking than the ones that you're going to, or than the ones after this. Although you're not going to see the ones after this because I'm only showing my painting of this first one. And I'm sitting here studying that picture right now is why I'm not doing anything. And I'm trying to figure out which way my lines need to go for the crossways part. And once I get one going, then we know where we're going. Okay, these lines on this one, this little section, they are going in. The next one will be going out. No, it won't. It's still going in. Here. You see how confusing it could be? You need to keep them so that I got that one going out. Frankly, I think it should have been going in myself on that one. I think I messed that one up. It gets really confusing, but once you get going with them, if you try these, it does get better as you're going, but trying to figure out which way stuff is going, once you get onto it, it's not so bad, but just getting started, as I said, a little confusing. You can see how it's starting to come together and look like the basket weave, although it looks very flat right now. When we get to the shading and the highlights, that's when it really comes alive and it really starts to look nice. Figuring out the shading too, that's another one. You gotta get in your head which ones are sticking up on top and which ones are going underneath. Once you get that, and then that's easy. I mean, there's nothing really difficult to painting this set other than the fact that you got to make sure you're getting your stuff going in the right way. And ideally they should all be of uniform size and shape, but you know, if it's a real basket, they're not going to be exactly uniform either. They're going to be slightly different, so I wasn't super worried about that. Now these ones on the side may or may not be going in the right direction because didn't have much to go on for them. And also they're not that curvy, they're kind of straightish because I didn't have much room to get a curve going with that little bit there. But it worked out okay in the end. That one needs a thing right there. Okay. And I think we're about done. Okay, there we go with that one. That one's ready. Well, no, it isn't. Now, on this one, I kind of tried to square up these little, where the dots are. Just a little bit, because the picture I was looking at, hers looked really square. I didn't do this part on any of the other ones I did. I just left them as they were and they looked fine. So really you don't need to do this bit. Unless you've got them looking pretty sloppy and you just want to smooth some of them out. Like the one to the left of there, see how it's kind of got a pointy bit? We want to smooth that out a little bit better. Okay, come on. That's enough fussing with this. This is partly why this one looks so much more heavy-handed, because I kind of enlarged some of those dots. But as I said, that was an unnecessary step. And apparently there's still something with that one I wasn't liking. Okay, now we're ready to cure it. Pay no attention to that phone alarm. That's my time to feed the cats alarm, but they're going to have to wait till I finish this. Okay, I'm not sure what I'm doing. Okay, we're ready to cure this now. Like I said 5 minutes ago. Okay, in we go. Now, you're going to do that to all the ones you're going to have the basket weave on. Now I'm going to mix up using that same brown we just used with some base coat. I am going to make my shading color, and I'm using a petal brush for this part because it was the right size. You don't want to use your detail brush because it's going to make thinner lines. You want to put it on in like a wider swath. So I have just used the leftover brown, mixed it in with the base coat, of which I got way too much poured out of there. You're not going to need not even like maybe a quarter of that much. Now this is where you have to figure out what parts are going in underneath and which parts are up. Okay, you want your shading to be on the underneath side. Like, see that strip across there? It's going over, so the shading would be underneath that. Now some of my shading got a little heavy-handed. I will go back and do stuff with that, blend it out a little bit as we're going here. Okay, and like that part's an underneath part. Once you establish which parts are up and which parts are down, then this part's really easy. It's basically you're going in the opposite way of, now that you got the first row on there, you can go in the opposite way on each one's on the side. Like if it was on side to side on that one, then the next one next to it is top and bottom. And I won't have a side on some of those because it doesn't go far enough along that edge. But these are the shadow lines from the parts that are up above the lower ones. I don't know if I'm confusing you guys worse by the way I'm explaining this, but for me that's was how I figured it out. And don't worry about that one, like you saw, it's like the whole section is pretty much got the shading color. We're going to fix that in a minute here. But this shading and then the highlighting, which we're going to do as the step after this, is really what brings the basket weave, I think, to life and really gives it the depth and makes it look nice. And while I'm got a second here, next week I'll be on my own nails again, so I'm going to do something with raccoons. I don't know exactly what yet. So stay tuned for that. Okay, I'm not curing that yet. I'm putting it on the rack, and I'm going to cure the rack because there's going to be two of them. But firstly, I wanted to get, here's one of the ring finger ones. We're going to do the same thing on here. See, you can see the pattern going here now. If it's opposite of whatever the one next to it is. Now some of these you can see like a kind of a heavier where I'm putting the shadowing in, you're seeing like a heavy line of it. I'm going to blend those out here in a minute so it doesn't look like it's got stripy lines going in there as bad, you know, as strong as they are. Well, now you can't even see what I'm doing. This set of press-ons that I'm wearing are the ones I threw on right that morning of the last craft show I was at. We have another one tomorrow, so they're going to have to see the same nails I already have because I'm not going to change them out. Okay, now I'm just blending this out a little. If it gets too much in the middle, you could take a little bit off of the middle so it has the lighter color, which I'm going to make it look like it's raised up more. I mean, you guys know how shadows work, for Pete's sakes. I don't know why I'm over-explaining, but I just didn't want those like harsh, like solid lines of where the shadow ended and the other part came on. So I'm just filling with it so I can kind of eliminate some of that. And once I get this one done, I am going to go back to the thumb and do the same thing on there. Whoopsie, I missed the part at the top. And you'll notice too, remember how bright that yellow looked when the polish was in the pot? It looks completely different now. And I'm going to blend these out like I just did with the other ones. Get rid of those lines. At least a little bit. And if I get too much of it in the middle, I'll just wipe a little bit of it off of the middle section so we still have the yellow part showing. And I'm wiping the excess off of my brush as I'm going along because it gets to be a little bit much. And then I'm not blending it out so much as I'm just moving it around. Sorry, I'm not feeling too chatty today, guys. Got a lot of stuff to get done today after this. Get my stuff together for the show tomorrow. I got a couple things I need to finish putting together. And after this craft show's done, then, well, I will be having an announcement. Hopefully, I'm getting it together. I still haven't done my poll. I couldn't figure out how to do it, so I have to Google it and figure out how to do that, the poll thing for the 200 follower deal and the giveaway. Once this show is behind me, I'll be able to concentrate on all this other stuff. And then the Christmas rush is going to start. And there we are. Those are now ready for curing. Okay, in they go. And now we'll be using white gel paint for the highlights. And you don't need very much on your brush. I know it's going to look like I have a lot. And you want to go very light-handedly just to make super thin little lines. And we want to go along all the up parts. All the parts where it would be sticking up. I know it looks like I have a lot of paint on my brush, but I'm not going to be, I mean, you can't see where the pointy part of it is. There's not much on that pointy bit, but just some very faint little white lines. On some of them, you can't even notice they're there that much, but it really does make a difference to give it depth and highlight. It helps a lot, just highlighting the edge of the up ones, just on, like, just in the inside of where the brown line is. And for the most part, you can see how thin and just kind of scarce the white is. I'm not putting on heavy lines. Now there is going to be a couple that you're going to see at some point where they got a little heavier than what I wanted, but they weren't that bad, so I just left them. But just this little step here, I was really surprised at how much dimension it ended up giving them. I mean, the shadowing gave it some, but then the highlighting just really brought it together. And you need to, and make sure you highlight on the correct side of the line. If you highlight on the opposite side of the line where it's on the down part, then it's not gonna do anything for you. And what I was doing too was in between each nail, or sometimes if I got too much that polish on there, I was cleaning my brush off. So, you know, that one's a little bit heavier than I would like, but not that much. It should be fairly easy to tell where to go, because you're not going to go where the shadowing is the heaviest, basically, because that's the down part. I sure hope I'm not confusing you guys even worse the way I'm trying to describe this. It was rather confusing a little bit, as I said, but once you get the gist of it, it's really not that difficult. I was so happy that these came out looking decent, because I didn't know what I was going to do if they didn't work. Especially since I've already tried this design before, and it did not come out, as you saw. And when I'm putting these on too, I'm just barely touching the nail with my brush, so it's not getting like a full swath of, you know, paint on there. It's just getting a little, just a very light little touch. Okay, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I think I was going to clean my brush. Yeah, it looks like I cleaned my brush off. It took me a long time to be able to get my lines to be, you know, nice and thin and light, instead of, you know, just heavy-handed. You'd be surprised how that doesn't seem like it would be that hard of a thing to learn, but for me it was. Trying to keep things light, and also I've had to learn to relax my hands when I'm doing this kind of stuff, because normally if I'm working on something, I have a death grip on whatever I'm holding in my hand. So getting my fingers and everything to be more relaxed, and resting my hand on the counter, you know, on the table as I'm doing it. So there's some kind of, it's not just floating in the air. It's got something resting, so I can control what I'm doing more easily. Okay, those are ready. Those were cured. Ta-da! And here we go with the final top coat. Now, I forgot to do a solid, tempered top coat and then matte it, so I just went straight in with the matte. So that's what this one's going to have. Normally, I like to give it a tempered top coat and then matte over top of that, as we've talked about that before. Because the matte top, it seems to be a much softer top coat. It can be damaged a lot more easily than the tempered or the regular no wipe top. So I like to give it a layer underneath of something harder. Which I don't know if I think I told you guys before a while back, but when I first got the tempered top coat, I didn't really understand why is it tempered top coat? What's the difference between this and a regular no wipe top? Because you don't have to wipe it. It has no tacky layer either. Finally, I've learned that the tempered top is a hard gel, and your regular no wipe is a softer gel that you can soak off. The harder gel, you can't soak it off. You've got to either file it off, or in the case of press-on nails, just take the nails off. Now this section, believe it or not, has been sped up to double time, so it still looks like I'm going at a snail's pace. If you're going to leave these shiny with gloss top on them, that's what they would look like. I thought it would look better matted, so that's what I did. There was some wonky stuff going on that I wasn't totally happy with. But I'm going to sort it out, and then we're going to get these in. I like to do a bit of a thicker top coat with the matte, because otherwise it gets kind of streaky looking. And I also cure my matte top longer. And then I'm going to cure this for 90 seconds instead of my normal 60 that I'd use on the regular. And there we are, all finished. I hope you like them. I think they turned out kind of cool. So if you do like them, please give me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will have another video for you next week. Well, I'll be doing something to my own nails with raccoons on them. That's all I got so far. Okay? Have a good one, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.